The owner told me not to worry about the noise once the dirt was packed down. He said it always sounded worse right before sunset. I was standing in an open grave when he said it, shovel in my hands, boots sinking into ground that never stayed firm. Pike Ridge Cemetery sat in a shallow valley where fog liked to gather and light faded faster than it should. Dusk didn't arrive here. It settled, like something heavy lowering itself over the stones. Behind me, Mr. Lorne and his companions watched. He owned the cemetery. I'd worked for him 4 years, and in that time, I had never seen him in full daylight. Every inspection, every conversation, every new delivery happened at dawn or dusk. He always wore the same dark coat, buttoned high, like he didn't trust the air. The 2 men with him didn't speak. They rarely moved. They stood too close together and stared at my hands while I worked, not at my face. The sound came again, faint, muffled, like someone pounding on a door far away. From the coffin. My grip tightened on the shovel. "You hear that?" I asked. Mr. Lorne nodded, calm. "Of course." "What is it?" "Not the dead," he said. "The dead are quiet." One of the companions leaned forward slightly as if drawn by the sound. Its face looked almost normal until it opened its mouth just a little, and I saw the inside was too dark to be a throat. "Enough," Mr. Lorne said. The companion straightened. I forced myself to keep working. Dirt thudded onto the coffin lid. The noise grew sharper, more desperate, then cut off so suddenly my ears rang with the silence. Mr. Lorne stepped closer to the grave and looked down, satisfied. "That's enough for tonight," he said. "Dress it and go home." "It'll be dark in a few minutes," I said. "That's why." I smoothed the dirt, set the marker, and didn't look back when I finished. My hands were shaking too hard. As I walked toward the gate, I felt it. Not a sound, but a faint vibration under my boots, like a heartbeat in the ground. I locked up fast and didn't slow down until I reached my truck. That was when my phone buzzed. No number, just a message on the screen. "Don't come back after dark. It hears the shovel." I stared at the cemetery through the windshield, at the fading light and the rows of quiet stones. And for the first time since I'd taken the job, I wondered if the graves at Pike Ridge were meant to keep things in or keep them fed. After that night, I started paying closer attention to the paperwork, or the lack of it. Most burials came with forms, signatures, at least a name. But some plots on my map were marked only with numbers, circled in red. No headstone orders, no families, just instructions to dig at specific times, always near sunrise or sunset. The deliveries started bothering me too. They never came from funeral homes, always unmarked trucks, always late in the day. Men who didn't look at the cemetery, didn't look at me, just unloaded plain wooden coffins and drove off like they couldn't leave fast enough. One evening, as I helped guide a coffin onto the lowering straps, I felt heat through the wood. Not room temperature, body temperature. I froze with my hands still on the box. "You feel that too, don't you?" I muttered. The driver swallowed and finally met my eyes. His face was pale and wet with sweat. "Just do your job," he whispered. "They're waiting." Then he climbed into his truck and sped off, tires spitting gravel. I didn't say anything to Mr. Lorne. I told myself there were explanations I didn't want to know. People hiding, people being moved, people the law didn't want questions about. But that night, while I was filling in a numbered grave, I heard voices from deeper in the cemetery. Not talking, breathing. Slow, uneven breaths that didn't match each other. I followed the sound to the edge of Section E, where I wasn't supposed to work alone. Between two old mausoleums, I saw them, Mr. Lorne and his companions, standing around an open coffin. Inside was a man, alive. His wrists were bound, his mouth was taped, but his eyes were wide and shining in the fading light. One companion knelt beside the coffin and leaned in close, nose almost touching the man's face. The man thrashed, muffled screams breaking through the tape. The companion inhaled, long and slow. The man's chest sagged like the air had been pulled out of him. Mr. Lorne's voice was calm. "That's enough. Not all at once." The companion straightened, swaying slightly like it was drunk. I backed away before they saw me, heart hammering so hard I thought it would give me away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way the man's body had gone slack, not dead, just emptied. And I kept thinking about what the message had said. It hears the shovel, not they. It. The next day, I found a new instruction pinned to my clipboard. Dig deeper. Section E. Reinforced walls required. I stared at the note until the paper shook in my hands, because I was starting to understand something I didn't want to accept. Pike Ridge wasn't just a place where bodies were buried. It was a place where something was being kept. And whatever it was, my job was helping to build its cage. Section E took 3 days to dig, not because the soil was hard, but because it kept collapsing inward, like it didn't want to open. I had to brace the walls with timber and metal frames Mr. Lorne left by the shed, already cut to size, like he'd known exactly how deep I'd need to go. On the 4th morning, my shovel struck something that wasn't dirt. Metal. I scraped away the soil and found a narrow hatch set into the ground, its edges welded into concrete. There were deep gouges in the steel, like something had clawed at it from the inside. My first thought was storm shelter. My second thought was that shelters didn't usually connect to graves, because when I leaned closer, I felt air moving up through the seams. Warm, stale, breathing air. I told myself to walk away. I didn't. The hatch wasn't locked. It opened with a long, tired groan that echoed down into darkness. A ladder disappeared into a concrete shaft and the smell hit me. Rot and copper and something chemical I couldn't place. I climbed down. The shaft opened into a narrow corridor lined with doors. Heavy steel doors, each marked with the same red numbers I'd seen on the plots above. Some doors were quiet. Some weren't. Behind one, something scraped slowly, patiently, like fingernails testing a wall. Behind another, I heard a wet, dragging sound followed by a soft, desperate whimper. These weren't graves. They were cells. Footsteps echoed above me. I killed my flashlight and pressed into the wall as Mr. Lorne's voice drifted down the shaft. "Not that one," he said. "That section is too active." One of the companions made a low, eager sound. "No," Mr. Lorne said firmly. "You'll make it worse." I watched their shadows slide across the floor as they passed, tall and wrong and bending in ways legs shouldn't. A door opened somewhere down the corridor. Then I heard breathing. Deep, ragged, close. Something in one of the cells had sensed them, and maybe sensed me too. I climbed back up as quietly as I could, hands slick with sweat, heart pounding in my throat. I closed the hatch and covered it with dirt until my arms burned and my vision blurred. When I finally stumbled back to the surface, the sky was already turning orange. Dusk. perfect timing for them. Mr. Lorne stood a few yards away, watching me with mild curiosity, like he'd been there the whole time. "You weren't told to open that," he said. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. He stepped closer, studying my face. "You understand now," he continued. "This place isn't for the dead. It's for the ones who can't be left to wander." "And the people in the coffins?" I whispered. He didn't answer right away. "They're not dead," he said finally, "but they're already lost." One companion tilted its head, listening to something beneath our feet. "They calm faster if they're fed," Mr. Lorne added. "That's why the timing matters." My legs felt weak. "You're feeding them," I said. "With people." "With what they leave behind," he corrected. "The rest is manageable." He looked at me carefully then. "And so are you," he said. That was when I realized something else, something that made my skin crawl. He wasn't angry I'd found the cells. He was checking to see if I was ready. After I found the cells, Mr. Lorne stopped pretending. He didn't threaten me, didn't warn me. He just started explaining things, the way someone does when they assume you're not going anywhere. "You've been here long enough," he said one morning at the edge of Section E. "Your body's adjusted." "Adjusted to what?" I asked. He glanced toward the ground. "Proximity." That was when I started noticing it. The sun hurt now. Not like a burn, more like pressure, like my skin was being squeezed. I started getting headaches by noon. My reflection looked dull, like someone had turned down the contrast on my face. And dogs? Dogs hated me. Every time I walked past the neighbor's fence on my way to work, their shepherd would snarl and throw itself at the chain like it wanted to tear through me. "You think the companions live here," Mr. Lorne said. "They don't. They can't stay long. They come to feed and to help restrain what's below." "Then what am I?" I asked. He studied me with something close to sympathy. "You're part of the structure now," he said. "Every cemetery like this needs someone human to keep the doors closed." I tried to quit. That afternoon, I packed my truck and drove toward the highway. I didn't make it 3 miles before the road dipped, fog rolled in, and the GPS lost signal. When the fog cleared, I was back at the cemetery gate, engine still running. I didn't try again. Mr. Lorne was waiting by the shed, like he'd known. "They won't let you leave once you've been exposed," he said gently. "You hear them now, don't you?" And I did. At night, in my house, I could feel faint pulses in the floor, like distant movement underground. Not loud enough to be sound, just enough to be noticed, just enough to be answered. "The last man lasted 6 years," Mr. Lorne continued. "You're already past that." "What happened to him?" I asked. Mr. Lorne's eyes flicked toward Section E. "He rests closer to the source," he said. My stomach turned. "You feed them," I said. "And when you can't find enough people, you use your workers." He didn't deny it. "We don't kill you," he said. "We repurpose you." That night, I tried to stay awake, terrified I'd hear something at my door. Nothing came, but when I finally drifted off, I dreamed of digging, and digging, and digging. Not into dirt, but into something soft and warm that kept closing around my hands. I woke up with dirt under my fingernails and fresh instructions on my phone. Section E. Prepare a new chamber. Deeper this time. I stared at the message until my hands stopped shaking. because I understood now what Mr. Lorne hadn't needed to say. This wasn't a job anymore. It was a countdown. I waited for dawn, not because I thought it would save me, but because they hated it. The sky was barely gray when I ran for my truck and drove straight for the highway, heart pounding, hands slick on the wheel. I didn't look back at the cemetery gate. The fog rolled in less than a mile out, thick, sudden, like a wall. My headlights reflected straight back at me, and when the fog thinned again, I was parked beside the maintenance shed. Same spot, same tire tracks. Mr. Lorne stood by the door, hands folded as if I'd only stepped away for a moment. "You don't have much time left for panic," he said. "It makes the process harder." "I'm not going underground," I said. "You'll have to kill me." He shook his head slowly. "That would be a waste." Behind him, the companions were already moving towards Section E, faster than I'd ever seen them, bodies bending and stretching in ways that made my vision swim. The ground shuddered, not hard, but enough to feel alive. "They're hungry," Mr. Lorne said, "and you've been too close to the source to be useful above ground much longer." I ran. Not for the gate, for the mausoleum near Section E, the one with the cracked stone doors and the old family name carved above it. I threw myself inside and slammed the doors shut, heart tearing at my chest. The air inside was damp and stale. Then I heard it. Scraping. From below. The floor split open with a sound like concrete breaking teeth. Cold air rushed up and something pale and long surged out of the darkness, moving too fast, too wrong to follow. Hands, too many of them, grabbed my legs, pulled. I screamed and kicked, fingers clawing at stone, but the floor was opening wider, dragging me down into the shaft beneath the graves. Mr. Lorne's voice echoed above me. "Don't fight it, Caleb. It will only hurt longer." They dragged me into the corridor of cells, past doors that shook and groaned as we passed, past numbers I recognized from the map I'd memorized. My cell was already open. Inside, the walls were reinforced, just like I'd been ordered to build. They threw me in and slammed the door. I lay on the concrete, gasping, listening to locks slide into place. Then the feeding began. Not on me, on the others. I heard doors open, heard the wet, desperate sounds of breathing being pulled away, heard bodies hit the floor when there was nothing left to take. And through it all, deeper than the rest, I felt the steady, patient movement beneath the cells. The real thing. Waiting. Hours passed, maybe days. Eventually, footsteps returned. Mr. Lorne stopped outside my door. "You'll stabilize soon," he said. "After that, the noise won't bother you anymore." My throat was raw. "And then what?" "Then you'll help keep it quiet," he replied. "Just like the others did." His steps moved away. The corridor went still, but the heartbeat under the floor never did. I don't know how long I stayed in that cell. Time feels different when you're buried alive and not allowed to die. At first, I screamed until my throat gave out. Then I listened. Then I started to understand the rhythm of the place. When the feeding happened, when the companions came and went, when the thing beneath us shifted and settled like it was dreaming. Eventually, my body stopped hurting the way it should have. That was worse. One day, the door opened, not for feeding, for work. They didn't chain me. They didn't have to. I could feel the pull of the ground now, a pressure in my bones that guided me toward weak spots, thin walls, cracks that needed sealing. I became part of the maintenance, part of the cage, I stopped thinking about escape because the thought felt distant, unreal, like remembering someone else's life. Then I heard a new sound above. A shovel. Metal striking dirt in careful, nervous strokes. A voice humming softly to keep from thinking too hard. A young man. New boots. New fear. Mr. Lorne's voice drifted down from above, calm and practiced. "You don't mind working alone, do you?" A pause. Then the answer I'd once given myself. "No, sir." I pressed my hands to the underside of the hatch and screamed until my lungs burned, but nothing reached the surface. The ground swallowed every sound I made, just like it always had. The shovel kept moving. Dirt fell through the seams of the ceiling and dusted my hair, my shoulders, my hands that no longer quite looked human. Mr. Lorne continued, "You'll do fine here. The dead are the easy part." The shovel paused. I felt it. The moment when the new gravedigger first noticed the vibration under his boots. The moment when the cemetery introduced itself. And I understood then that Pike Ridge didn't just hold monsters. It trained replacements. Fed the old ones to the thing below and shaped the new ones into keepers, caretakers, parts of the structure. The shovel started again, slow, steady, learning the rhythm. And I realized the worst truth of all. The cemetery didn't keep the thing trapped. It kept it comfortable. And it kept us coming. So if you're listening to this and thinking, that could never happen to me, just remember, every place has its rules, and every quiet job has its secrets. If you've ever worked somewhere that felt wrong, if you've ever had that feeling that you were being watched, then you already know how these stories start. And you know they don't stop unless people stay alert. So don't walk away alone. Pull up a seat at the fire. Subscribe to Campfire Horror Stories and stay with us, because the dark doesn't disappear. It just waits for someone new to step into it. If you heard something in this story that made your skin crawl, hit the like button so we know you're still out there. And tell us in the comments, would you have taken the job? Or would you have run the first night you heard the ground breathing? Until next time, keep your lights on, watch the shadows, and never trust a place that only opens at dusk.